Hey friends, today I'm sharing 3 pumpkin-inspired recipes with you all, and I'm also putting together a thrifty Thanksgiving tablescape using items that I already had. I'm doing a fun DIY project that saved me so much money, and I can't wait to show you how beautifully it came together. I had a lot of fun creating this video, and I can't wait to take you guys along with me. Alright guys, so to start off this video, I wanted to show you this beautiful ceramic or glass Thanksgiving turkey centerpiece that my friend actually picked up for me at the thrift store. So it was free for me, but she said she spent $5.99 on it, just under $6, and she thought I could do something creative with it. And the very first thing I did was I went online to look at some inspiration for turkey centerpieces, and oh my goodness, look at the prices. And I knew I could create something similar for way less. So the very first thing that I decided to do to this turkey, I love the idea of brass, and so I found some matte black spray paint, and I had my husband spray paint it for me outside on a sunny day for step 1 in this little turkey makeover. And I let the paint dry for quite a while. While that paint dries, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to my first pumpkin inspired recipe, and we're going to make a pumpkin risotto. Now, my husband and I are huge fans of risotto. We love it so much. My kids aren't huge fans of it. So funny, because risotto is a little bit of a process. It's not difficult by any means, but it's a process, and whenever we make it, they're like, oh, it's this stuff. Anyways, my kids aren't a huge fan, but Mike and I love risotto, and so we continue to make it, and hopefully one day we'll convert their taste buds. So I'm going to make a roasted pumpkin risotto, like I said before, and the first step in doing so is just to cook up some pumpkin. I have pumpkin all over my house for decor, and one particular pumpkin was starting to get a little yellow, a little spotty. So I thought, hey, why not eat it, you know? So waste not, want not. But I'm just gonna cut this little guy up, and I'm going to throw it in a 425-degree oven with some olive oil, some salt, pepper, and we're just gonna get it nice and roasted and beautiful. It'll caramelize and sweeten and just be delicious in the risotto. So that's the first thing that I'm gonna do here. I'm also going to go ahead and chop up an onion to kind of saute for my risotto as well. And then I also want to get my asparagus prepped and ready. It's not going to go in the oven soon, but I figured I might as well prepare it now so that I can just throw it in at the very end when I'm trying to finish off the risotto. So anyways, I'm just so excited about some new cookware that I recently received. I have been loving it, and I cannot wait to share all about it with you guys. It is the perfect addition to my holiday cooking, and I know you guys are going to want to learn more. All right guys, you know how much I love to cook and bake, especially during the fall and winter season. There's something about this time of year that I just spend a ton more time in my kitchen. Well, you guys know that I've shared my Caraway cookware with you before. It's non-toxic, amazing. It's held up so well over the last couple of years that I've had it. But I recently received the Caraway cast iron cookware. And again, if you've been subscribed to my channel for long, you know that I love to cook with cast iron. It's my favorite. I love the fact that you can cook something on the stovetop, get a nice sear, and then finish it off in the oven. I bake my sourdough bread in my cast iron Dutch ovens all the time. So I was so excited to hear that Caraway came out with a cast iron line. So the good news is that Caraway is having a major sale right now. So now is the time to stock up if you have been looking for a cleaner alternative that's free of toxins. Think about all of the cooking you're going to be doing during the holiday season. You don't want to risk these pots and pans selling out. Now, Caraway's Black Friday deals have started early this year, so if you have been wanting to give Caraway a try, or maybe you know of a loved one who has been wanting some Caraway kitchenware, now is the time to take advantage of these amazing deals. Now, I cook multiple times a day, so I need some pans that can really handle that. And when Mike and I were first married, I always got the cheap stuff, and I was replacing them every couple of years. Now, Caraway is a non-toxic kitchenware brand that offers high-quality kitchen essentials. No matter the material, you can rest assured that you're cooking with clean and sustainable cookware. Now, here's something interesting. The founder of Caraway accidentally overheated a Teflon pan, and he got sick with Teflon flu. He discovered that it only took 2.5 minutes for a Teflon pan to reach 500 degrees, which is when those toxic chemicals and fumes start releasing into the air. With as often as I cook, I'm just so glad that I have pots and pans that I know are safe for myself and my family. Now, this beautiful enameled cast iron cookware set is coated with naturally non-toxic enamel, and Caraway's cast iron can be cleaned with regular soap and water. There's no seasoning required with these cast iron pans, and the great thing about them is that because they have this enamel coating, you don't have to worry about rusting or your pans getting smelly like standard cast iron pans. Caraway's enameled cast iron pans were designed to make cast iron more friendly. So I remember when I first began cooking with cast iron, it took a couple of months for me to really get used to cast iron. Just when you're used to cooking with nonstick surfaces, there's just some tricks you learn along the way, and it can take some time to get used to learn. And so Caraway has made cooking with cast iron so much more simple. You can get the benefits of cooking with cast iron without all the fuss of caring for it. Another thing I love about this cast iron cookware set is that it has a lifetime warranty. Most enameled cast iron pans have 2 to 3 layers of coating, but Caraway's set has 5. Now, Caraway has different cast iron duo sets. Mine actually came with the 10-inch cast iron pan, as well as the cast iron Dutch oven, which I'm so excited to bake bread in and soups and all kinds of things. You can select from their brazier, skillet, grill pan, or Dutch oven for the duo sets. All of their cookware is 100% non-toxic. Even a lot of the popular celebrity-backed brands contain these harmful chemicals. And like I said before, when you heat those pans past 500 degrees, these toxic fumes begin releasing into the air. Now, you can't see these fumes and you can't smell them either, unfortunately. But exposure to these fumes can be super harmful to your health. And long-term exposure to these chemicals can lead to cancer, behavioral issues, lower sperm count, birth defects, and so much more. Now, like I said before, I've been using the Caraway nonstick cookware for a couple of years now, and I have loved these pans. I'm so excited to give these cast iron pans a try. Get yourself prepared for the holidays with Caraway. If you or someone you love has been eyeing Caraway cookware, now is the time to take advantage of these amazing Black Friday deals. You can get up to 20% off right now, and if you use my promo code PINE&PROSPECT, your name will be entered into a drawing for the baking sheet duo. There will be 50 winners, you guys, so your chances are pretty high. All you have to do is enter my promo code during checkout and you'll be entered into the giveaway. Now, I'm going to put all of these details in the description below, so make sure you check it out, and remember, you can get 20% off your next Caraway cookware with my link, and don't forget, you can enter my special promo code PINE&PROSPECT to be entered into this baking sheet duo giveaway. Guys, this is such a great gift if you know of someone who loves to cook and bake and you're trying to get ahead for the holidays, or maybe you just need to replace some of your own cookware. Now is the time to take advantage of this amazing Black Friday deal. I love using Caraway in my kitchen, and I know you guys will too. All right, so if you've never cooked risotto before, it's actually really simple. It's not difficult at all. It's just something that you kind of have to babysit a little bit. Basically, all you're doing is I put the rice in the pot with the onion and some salt and pepper, cooked it for a bit, and then I'm just adding some hot broth to that rice. And some people say you should stir it constantly. Some people say you should let it be. I'm kind of in the middle. I will do some other things, stir it, check it, and whenever the rice has absorbed the broth that you added, you usually want to add like a cup at a time. Once that rice has absorbed the broth and you can kind of like separate it with a spoon and you don't see any liquid kind of, coming out of the rice, then you know it's ready for more broth. And you continue to just add that hot broth. I used vegetable broth for this particular risotto. You can use chicken broth, whatever you have on hand. And you just keep adding the broth until the rice is cooked. And at that point, I will go ahead and add my pumpkin. Now, in the meantime, I'm just gonna get some smoked sausage into my cast iron caraway pan, so that's cooking away nicely. While the risotto and the smoked sausage cooks, I'm going to go ahead and head back to my turkey and work on that and show you how beautifully it turned out. As you can see, the black spray paint is completely dry. It's gonna make for a beautiful base. The reason I wanted to add the black matte spray paint, I wanted to create this like antiqued brass appearance, and so black is just a beautiful base coat. So I'm just gonna take some rub and buff. I have a couple different kinds here, but I'm actually gonna go for the European gold. That's the one I tend to gravitate to more often. It's a little less orange. I'm gonna take an artist brush, and I'm not gonna brush too deeply. I'm going to kind of let the raised parts of the turkey catch the paint off of my brush, if that makes sense, so that that black base coat that I spray painted, so that you still kind of see that, and then the brass sort of highlights the texture of the turkey, if that makes sense. So you can see how beautiful this turkey is turning out. I love the mixture of the brass and the black. This was actually a really fun project, and I could have done like 3 or 4 more of these. Now I'm like looking for other items in my home that I can spray paint black and use this rub and buff. It was just a really fun project, and I cannot believe how beautiful this turkey turned out. I showed you those images when I first, was inspired to do this, and I was looking at turkeys, brass turkeys, for well over $100. The fact that I already had the spray paint, I already had the rub and buff, the turkey was a gift. I didn't even have to pay for it. I would say that's a pretty thrifty Thanksgiving centerpiece. Now, once I placed my turkey on the table, I was just blown away. I was so in love with this thing, you guys. This will be a staple that I probably use year after year whenever we host Thanksgiving. But I wanted to, just for fun, create a little tablescape for you guys. So I already have pumpkins all over the house. I thought I would kind of add those on either side of the turkey. And since the turkey was brass, I wanted to bring in some brass candlesticks as well. I thrifted these. And after stepping back, I just thought, man, I need some green, some life. And so I went out into my garden, and I just have some beautiful sage that just exploded this summer. I planted this tiny little plant, and it just filled in the whole corner of this garden box, which I love the smell of it. Oh my goodness, I want to dry a bunch of this, but I decided to clip some and use it for my Thanksgiving tablescape and kind of tuck it into all the little pumpkins and around the turkey, and it just instantly made those pumpkins and that turkey come to life, really. It was like the perfect addition to my simple Thanksgiving tablescape. Now, just for you guys, I'm gonna light these little candles here so that you can get the full effect. And I just thought, you know what? I'm just gonna go all in here and set the whole table. It was kind of funny. My boys walked in for dinner that night and they were like, "What's going on, Mom?" Oh my goodness. But it was fun. It was a little fancy dinner we had. I am just using some thrifted Pfaltzgraff plates. I have a whole video about my Pfaltzgraff collection. It's the vintage heritage white collection, and for whatever reason, I just like it. I like the lines. I love the simplicity of the pattern, and so I'm setting those plates out. And I'm not going to go crazy here with everything that you would put in a traditional Thanksgiving tablescape, but I went ahead and added some thrifted glasses as well. I actually thrifted some of these with you guys last year when I showed you my Thanksgiving meal from start to finish. If you've never hosted Thanksgiving and you need some tips and some recipes, check out that video. To the plates and glassware, I'm just gonna bring a pitcher in that I also thrifted, fill it with some apple cider, and today I'm just putting some forks down, and that's about it. I'm not even gonna do knives and spoons. We don't need them for dinner tonight. So my point in doing this is just to show you that a Thanksgiving tablescape can be simple, it can be thrifty. You don't need to go buy a bunch of stuff. You can just look around your home, use what you already have, and you can create something really, really beautiful. I'm gonna add my pumpkin to the risotto and mix it up here. You can see how beautiful it is with that roasted pumpkin kind of mixed into there. It just, makes it a little bit more festive for the fall season. I've actually also done butternut squash risotto, which is delicious. I'm going to throw my asparagus into the oven as well and get that roasting. And then I'll start bringing some of these dishes right over to the table. Alright guys, so that night I decided to make a pumpkin-inspired sourdough loaf. I'm sure you've seen these on the internet, but I'm just following the recipe that I have over on my blog. It's a very simple sourdough bread recipe. If you're brand new at sourdough and you don't want something that's too overwhelming, I love this recipe. I have it memorized at this point. But instead of putting it into my Banneton basket like I normally do, I am going to lay some string down in a pattern in order to make these ridges in my bread loaf so that it kind of bakes like a pumpkin, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to show you here how I did it, and I actually am just going to put this basket in the fridge for tonight, but you want to go ahead and add the string to the basket because it'll make it easier for you later on. So let me show you what I mean by that. The following morning, when I finally had a chance to bake my bread, I popped it out of the basket, and you can see here that it's already risen even a little bit more just from being in the fridge overnight. Now, lately I've been adding some rice to the bottom of my Dutch oven just because the bottom of the bread will get really, really hard and crusty and sometimes even like black. And so this just makes it easier to cut through if you add a little bit of rice to the bottom of your Dutch oven. And then I will go ahead and score my bread. So I'll just cut a pretty little pattern on the parts of the bread, like in between the string portions here. And then take that parchment paper and put it right into the Dutch oven, and I'm gonna bake it for about 35 minutes. I doubled the recipe today, so I'm gonna bake it for about 35 minutes covered, and then I'll take the lid off and bake it for another 25 minutes uncovered at 450 degrees. While my bread is baking, I want to go ahead and get started on my lasagna. Now, I did not intend to do this, but the idea just popped into my head as I was making my sauce for the lasagna. I decided to go ahead and start off with some ground beef, and I'm just gonna brown that in a pot here. And I will add some traditional flavors when it comes to the lasagna. I have some garlic powder, some onion powder. I'm going to add some Italian seasoning. But then I happened to see a can of canned pumpkin in my fridge that I used for some pumpkin pancakes or pumpkin waffles, something like that. So I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna throw this into my sauce for my lasagna. You'll never taste it. It just adds a little bit of sweetness, which you can kind of substitute this for like the sugar that you might add to a red sauce to kind of balance the acidity of the tomatoes. Anyways, so I'm just gonna add a can of crushed tomatoes, a can of tomato sauce. I've also got a jar of marinara. Whenever I make homemade tomato sauce, it's a little bit different every time. I just keep all of these ingredients stocked in my pantry at all times. So if I ever want to make anything with a red sauce, I always have canned tomatoes. I always have tomato puree. I almost always have ground beef, always have gluten-free noodles. Just makes for some simple meals. So I am just going to go ahead and let this sauce simmer. I've also added salt and pepper. And while that simmers, I'm going to get the rest of the ingredients for my lasagna ready. I don't have any ricotta, so I'm going to use some cottage cheese. I always have cottage cheese on hand because I eat it for breakfast sometimes with fruit. So I'm gonna mix that with a couple of eggs and get that all ready. I also am going to grate a whole bunch of mozzarella cheese. I tend to always have a big block of mozzarella and usually a big block of like cheddar or Colby Jack cheese. And I've got some Parmesan too that I pulled out of my freezer. So I like to keep the Parmesan in my freezer because I don't use it a whole lot, and it just keeps better in there. I will say the pumpkin didn't add quite, it was just like a half a can of pumpkin, so it didn't quite make the sauce sweet enough. Not that I wanted the sauce to be sweet. I like this balance of flavor. But the tomatoes can be a little bit acidic. So a lot of times people just take white sugar and put it in their sauce. So instead of doing that, I'm going to use some pure maple syrup. I thought it might go nicely with the pureed pumpkin, and it did. I'm just going to go ahead and use some gluten-free lasagna noodles. I love this Jovial brand. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put this lasagna together layer by layer. Now for the very top layer, I like to add some of that Parmesan, and I'm also going to add a little bit of parsley to the top layer as well. And we are going to stick this in the oven now. With lasagna, especially when you have a really full dish like this, I thrifted this dish, by the way, this casserole dish. Sometimes people make like a tent out of aluminum foil, and it can be tricky. Your cheese can still get stuck to that. So one thing that I do is I just use a big, huge roasting pan lid that balances perfectly on the top of my casserole dish. And then I'll bake this lasagna for about, 50 minutes or so, I think. And then for those last 10 minutes, I'll just pull the lid off so that the cheese on top gets nice and brown and crusty. My husband loves that, and delicious. Now, I did want to show you how my beautiful sourdough bread turned out. You can see here that it looks like a pumpkin, and once it cools and it's not piping hot, you can kind of pull the string off. And one fun thing to do to really make it look like a pumpkin is to add a little cinnamon stick on top. You might need to take a knife and just insert it there to make a little hole for your cinnamon stick, but I just think it's so fun and festive. How beautiful would this be on a Thanksgiving tablescape like the one I created earlier? Especially if you had like a couple of them or even one large one and some mini pumpkin loaves. I don't know, I just think it's so festive and beautiful. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed these 3 savory pumpkin-inspired recipes and they gave you some ideas. I hope you enjoyed my DIY Thanksgiving tablescape, and let me know what you thought about that turkey. That was a proud moment for me. Thanks so much for cooking with me today and decorating. I always hope to inspire you guys and show you that you can create beauty on a very low budget. So if you're new to my channel, I'd love for you to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.